You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. Now, the largest new media platform on the web and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. The thing is for doing, and we are back doing The Amazing Race.
Yay!
Hey, everybody. My name is Nando Velasquez, and joining me today are...
James Wallington. Please excuse me if you hear me sniffling. I have a cold.
And Jessica Carroll, and I'm not sniffling and happy as can be.
Because you're back from Hawaii.
Because I'm back from Hawaii, and I just scared the dickens out of my mama.
Oh, I
April
love
Fools.
it.
Happy April Fools. Happy April Fools. Well, we're not going to be fooling anybody today, I don't think, are we?
No.
Or could we?
We probably could.
We probably could, but we weren't really prepared for it. We're too busy pranking everybody
Well,
else.
you guys, next season of The Amazing Race is going to have teams of 3, and we will be on the next season.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the
We
way to
just
do
got
it.
the phone call today.
We just got the phone call. All right.
got the phone call.
Official word just came in through our headsets. Yeah, absolutely.
Team
Well,
AfterBuzz.
Yes, Team
Yes.
AfterBuzz.
Dominating.
Well, we're here this week. This week's episode is called "Be Safe and Don't Hit a Cow." Thanks to Team Bama for that line.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. So let's get started. Let's get cracking on this. So when we last left our teams at the beginning of this, our hockey brothers were in first place. Bates and Anthony, for the second time during this season, they were in first place. Followed by Pam and Winnie, who have been incredibly resourceful, and they have shown me up every single week by doing better and better.
Right.
Chuck and Winona. Then Team YouTube was in fourth place. That's Joey and Megan. We had the country singers, Carolyn and Jessica, after them. And then
Caroline and Jennifer.
I'm sorry, Jennifer.
I wish I was, but it's Jennifer.
Are you a country singer? You want to sing something?
Yeah, I'd rather not. Only in
Okay.
the shower.
Okay. We can arrange that. So, and then Mona and Beth are roller derby girls, and Max and Katie are in the rear. They actually were the last team the week before, but it was a non-elimination round, so they have an extra penalty called the speed bump, as we all know.
The infamous speed bump.
The infinite speed bump, but it would seem to be a problem getting to the first challenge because it wasn't just a speed bump they had to worry about, but a couple of teams got into a speed trap.
The
Yes.
popo.
Yeah, the popo. What do they call it down in Botswana? I'm trying to think.
I thought it was funny that Caroline and Jennifer thought that they could talk their way out of a ticket. They're in a foreign country. These people don't know you. You can't flirt your way out of the ticket. But I will be honest, I'm surprised that the officers did not cut them some slack because
Yeah.
there's 2 beautiful blondes. I really thought that, they might be keen on maybe giving them a pass on the ticket. But I was a little surprised at both ends that they thought they were going to get out of the ticket, and then I was surprised that they actually got the ticket. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they could have possibly been able to at least see the tourist trap thing. We're tourists. We didn't know. We didn't see the sign. I would have thought
Well,
that.
they did. They were like, we didn't know we were speeding. We didn't know the speed limit. And plus the police and all the cameras around. Like, you would think he would just be like, okay.
Well, you have to think that police officers in other countries are a little bit different than the ones here. Maybe
Yeah.
they don't have a... Like, that guy was like, I have a boss. Go to him. And
Right.
he was just like, I don't know what he was doing behind the car. He looked like he was playing Sudoku or something like that. He's like, no, you broke the law. You have to do a ticket.
Right.
And we learned that they have to pay, I guess, in Botswana, you get a ticket, they ask that you pay right away, or I guess maybe that's a rule of the race, because I would think they couldn't leave without sorting all their affairs,
because they,
too.
without even question, just went straight to the police office. and,
Yeah,
like,
they had to pay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it was 820 pula. I wrote
Pula.
down. Pula, which I like. I like that. I've never heard
Pula.
that before.
It's
I
a
know.
cute name
I like
for
it.
currency.
It's a
yeah.
catchy.
I would like to have lots of pula if I'm in Botswana.
Me too.
Yes. And 820, according to the girls, translates to $100 US.
I'd be curious to know if that really was the case. I probably should have looked that up.
We could have looked it up. I'm going to take their word for it because
Probably.
they had to do the exchange rate down there. So
Yeah, good
I would
point.
think they'd do that. But yeah, so and apparently I guess the speed trap, it went from 120 kilometers to 60 kilometers. I believe that's what it was. So it was a pretty severe drop. It was an
speed.
obvious speed trap.
Right.
So, normally with a delay like that, especially all the problems they were having with that speed trap, trying to get their way out of it and then go to the police department, you would think that they would be out of it. But they were not the only team that got caught. Unfortunately for Max and Katie, they got caught too. And when you're in last place and you have a speedboat coming up, that must have been a really stressful situation.
And they already had a hard time finding the car in the first place.
It seemed like everyone was off their A game this leg. Just trying to get from point A to point B, everyone seemed really frazzled and frantic about where to go, stopping for directions. Joey and Megan even stopped for directions at the gas station, and they admitted that they were a little directionally challenged. But as much as I am a fan of Team YouTube and Joey, I thought it was so funny how Joey was like, our generation is so keen to using GPS that they don't know how to read a map anymore. I'm the same age as him, and I know how to read a map. In fact, I know how to get from point A to point B without using my GPS just because I'm not directionally challenged. So I don't think it's a generational thing.
Well, you know who impressed me? The Hockey Brothers, because they were even told you might get lost.
Right.
But as far as we could tell, they made it on their own with no help at all, other than the ladies giving them directions.
Showing us up, because we always say we don't think there's a lot going on upstairs, and they actually proved us that's
and they
wrong.
even admitted, they were like, well, we're first in the lead. We have no one to cheat on and follow. So they really were in the lead.
Yeah, that was a big surprise for me.
Yeah.
So kudos to them, because I've been one of the ones saying that I think they're really strong athletically, but I think they have some weak spots, and maybe they even think so too. But they worked on it, and at least in this leg, they proved me wrong.
Yeah.
So I will eat crow there. So that's totally fine. But yeah, Team YouTube getting incredibly lost, so lost that both the speed trapped teams, Carolyn and Jennifer, and then Max and Katie, both got to go to the police department, have their little problems, and then get out. And then they, luckily for Team YouTube, they were able to see Max and Katie. Otherwise, they might still be in Botswana looking right now for that.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
They probably would.
The way they were going at it. So, also, I just want to note, really interesting. I mean, we know this rule that the teams, because we never see teams separated. But
Right.
I guess Carolyn had to stay at the police station while Jennifer had to go get money because they were not smart enough to have Pula going into the Popo.
Right, because
Yeah.
Caroline
So-
couldn't leave unless she paid.
And you know, I actually, that one surprised me. I actually filmed a reality pilot last year that was very similar to The Amazing Race. And one of the main rules was we were not allowed to be within 50 feet we had to be within 50 feet at all times from our teammate, camera guy, and audio guy.
Yeah.
So that is a rule. So I'd be curious to know what the actual, distance between your teammate is.
But she
a
didn't
rule.
go that far. She just went to
Outside of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know if it was 50 yards or whatever. Maybe they gave her a little extra leeway because this was the only way she could handle it, was to give $100 to some guy
And hope that he
and
came
hope
back.
that he comes back with Pula.
Yeah.
With
Pula.
some Pula.
Bring
Yes.
home the Pula.
Yes, exactly. So luckily for them, the speed trap was just a real speed bump for them, and they got to get out of there. And
And
the
he
guy
did
came
return.
back. He came back. He got some hugs.
Yes.
So maybe that's why he came back. Maybe it was
You're
worth
our
the money.
savior, our hero.
He got hugs from
my
cute
gosh.
country girls, and they went off. So leaving there, we ended up with the roadblock going in, and the order pretty much was Hockey Brothers were first place, and then Winnie and Pam, Wynonna and Chuck. We had the Derby Moms. Carolyn was there with Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Joey, Team YouTube, Joey and Megan, and then Max and Katie up in the rear. And Max and Katie, well, we could talk about them because they had a speed bump there themselves.
Right.
Which
but
was,
when they actually got to the roadblock within the clue was the fast forward clue as well. And so
Yes.
before we really knew what the roadblock was,
Thank you for
they
that.
had Bates and Anthony. Which
Yes.
I have to say, I'm really surprised when teams who are in the front of the pack use the fast forward. I personally think it's a waste because, at some point, whether it's that leg or the next leg, there's going to be an equalizer. And so what's the point of using the fast forward when you're already in first place and you already have this momentum? You know that all the other teams are behind you. I just thought it was a waste. I would have rather have
Yeah.
seen someone in the back of the pack,
Use
take
it.
advantage of it. So I didn't think it was really smart on their end.
I disagree with you only because I think it's really good strategy because you don't want a team leapfrogging ahead of you. You don't want that.
I guess once you're
know.
in the first first place, you want to stay in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, you never know, especially if you're toward the end of the pack and that fast forward is not being taken, you never know who's going to take it. So
Right.
I think the opportunity arises. But I will say that the fast forward is usually something very challenging. And I felt this week's was incredibly challenging.
There's no way I would be caught dead doing it. I mean, I know that
would have
much.
dominated on that one.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I can ski on one ski, two, piece of cake.
It's not the water skiing that I would have had a problem with.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that the water is so muddy, it's so dark, and to know that there's crocodiles in there, no way. Those things are aggressive. They showed, little B-roll of the crocodiles. And I thought it was really funny how Bates and Anthony both asked, oh my gosh, there's crocodiles in there? And this one guy said, nothing, we checked last night. How do you check the water and say, the coast is clear, there's no crocodiles? What, is there some sort of app on your phone or like a scale you put in the
an app
water?
for that. Yeah, there's an
I
app
just
for
thought
that.
it was a little ridiculous, and there's no way I would have gotten on those water skis.
Guess I'm just the daredevil of this group.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm a city boy. I've never water skied before. So the fact I would have possibly taken a chance with it, but when it said 1 mile, especially, yeah, they were having trouble with it too. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there
Well,
they go.
Exactly.
Oh
There we
man,
go.
he looked like he was scared out of his mind.
Yeah.
And then once he did get his balance, he didn't move and barely looked like he was even breathing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it didn't even surprise me either that they did so well on this because, they're on ice skates for a living being hockey players. So
They have good balance.
I think getting up is the hard part, but once you have that momentum and you kind of have yourself up,
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be hard for them. So
I
it
don't-
didn't surprise me they did it really well.
I don't think there are many teams that would have gone for this fast forward, honestly. I
No.
can't see Chuck and Winona doing it, for example.
Although it would have been really entertaining to see Joey do that after his freak out last
facial
week with the
expressions.
Scorpions.
That
Yes.
would have been fun. I'm sure they would have done it.
Yeah.
But they would have been freaking out the whole
Oh,
way.
I'm
Oh.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes, our eardrums would probably be numb because
Right.
he's screaming so loud.
But anyway, Bates and Anthony ended up successfully doing the water skiing for a mile. They ended up successfully doing it. And they got to the pit stop. First place, no problem at all. So
And-
one
Third
team
time.
and
They were able to take off their shirts.
yes.
I
well,
love
And
that
show their
comment.
bodies.
I was waiting for you to say that. I knew you would bring
And
that
the
one
best
up.
part of all is they said, "Oh, this is a great scenery. Africa looks good too." Okay.
They are attractive, but their bodies weren't the best of any. There's been players in past
Yes.
seasons who've had better bodies
and a
than
little
they.
hairy, like shave a little.
But him pulling out his teeth made it all the better.
I'm learning so much about both of you guys and what your interests are
Oh.
here. So yeah, okay. So now I know
Our types.
what types you have. Okay, so I know better than to take my shirt off in this podcast. Just saying. All right. So and to be cocky about it too. So moving on. That I brought that up, so it's my bad. Moving on, we had the roadblock. So now that the fast forward's out of the way, all that's left over is for all the other teams to do the roadblock, with the exception of Max and Katie, who have to do a speed bump before. So the speed bump seemed pretty simple enough. Let's just get that out of the way because it was a ceremony. I guess it was a seduction dance.
It was a seduction dance.
So which was a lot of rump shaking.
Beating a skirt.
Yeah, beating a skirt, rump shaking. That was a pretty easy. I would have to say that's a pretty easy speed
Yeah,
bump.
and
Yeah.
then the face paint.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Just a little ceremony. I mean, those things are cute. They're fun.
Although Katie did go from being so extremely mad and just pissed off because he couldn't find the car to begin with, then he got the ticket, and then he hit a pole. And then at the end, she said, "Oh, this was a great cultural
Yeah.
experience. Like,
Yeah.
this is awesome." So she definitely turned her attitude around.
I agree. Katie was really super
Oh, yeah.
annoying this episode.
Well, opposed to last week though, when she was like complaining about how the Bushmen smelled in the vehicle with
I guess
them,
that's
and now
true,
she's
too.
like really into the culture, and she
Yeah.
thought it was a really cool experience. So I've got to give her credit. She's growing.
I think
She is.
she checked herself at the speed bump. I think that's what she did. But she was really. I was just surprised at how off she was on Max, calling him stupid and.
Yeah,
just-
he's supposed to be the man.
Yeah.
She said.
That was a little negative for me, but.
Yeah.
They're newlyweds. They'll learn.
They're
They'll
gonna
work through
fight
it.
a little bit. They're gonna fight. Okay, so anyway, Max and Katie had to do that, but while they were doing that, all the other teams were going through this this roadblock, and the clue was who wants to go up a creek without a paddle, which it ended up being that all the teams, both members. This was a roadblock that used both members, but only because I guess the other one was there for support.
Holding a goat.
Holding goats. They had to transport 2 goats up about a half a mile, I believe, upstream, which is a very important for this challenge. That they had to go upstream with 2 baby goats, which were adorable, I have to admit.
So
really
cute.
adorable goats.
Goats are like the new thing. They're in Amazing Race. They're in Taylor Swift's new music video. They're in Justin Bieber.
I mean, they were probably going to be used as sacrifices to the crocodiles, but they were definitely cute.
Yeah.
So cute.
So, and the teams had to transport them by using makoro, which is a traditional canoe from Botswana that's made from a single tree. It's hollowed out from a single tree. And they did not have a paddle. They had to use a very large and I guess heavy stick. According to Winona, it was a very heavy stick. So I don't know how, she doesn't look like she's lifting. So who knows how heavy that is.
Well, the fact that she even did this roadblock, I was so proud of her because we always are like, she's got to step it up at some point.
No, their
I
count's
give her
almost even.
credit.
Yeah, I think it's 5. This is like the 6th leg now, right? So I think he's up 1 or 2 roadblocks on her now.
Yeah.
So they're closer to even. So
She's
this
done
was a good
3.
one.
I checked on Wikipedia, and I think he's done 5, and she's done 3.
So it's 8. Yeah. So that's about right. So yeah. So good for her, and that's great for them going into this, going into the future legs. If you've seen the show, you know they made it. But I was gonna say, if they made it. But considering their position, this is great for them.
I just thought that Chuck could have been a little more supportive towards her. I mean, some of the comments like, straddle the canoe and put your hands up the pole. I mean, some of them were just...
Spread your legs was the big one.
Yeah, spread your legs. Come on.
It was all... our minds all went to the gutter.
Yeah.
Come
on,
totally
Chuck.
Admit, except for Chuck. Chuck was honestly being like, that's how we do it back in Alabama. Spread your legs.
You know what, though? This is why I love The Amazing Race. It gives people like Chuck and Winona, a team from Alabama that probably doesn't have a lot of money to go to these places. They're experiencing things they would never get to in their lifetime. And that's why I'm rooting for them, because they're relatable. They're seeing places that people just dream of seeing.
That's true.
Absolutely. I agree with you. They're really, really fun to watch.
I know.
And I'm glad they're still in it. So anyway, the people who had to do the paddling, those were the people that were calling out on the clue for the roadblock, were Winnie from Team Pam and Winnie, Winona, who we just talked about. We had Beth doing it for the Derby Moms, having a lot of problems and a lot of frustration as well. It seemed like there was a lot of frustration from almost all the teams in this one, and the teammates in particular were getting really nasty at some points. Although Beth was the one that was snapping at Mona on this one.
And actually, Jennifer was very, very supportive with Caroline.
Jennifer was.
She was saying, like, I'm so proud of you. And Caroline actually did a pretty good job.
And I
gotta admit,
impressed.
Caroline loved the goats. She was like, I want to make a new friend.
Oh, yeah.
I kept thinking about the spider monkey that died of loneliness in her bra, though. I don't know why. Just going back a couple of weeks, I kept thinking about that.
Well, the goats are pretty cute.
I gotta say, Caroline and Jennifer actually rubbed off on me this episode.
Yay!
And I was very impressed with what they were capable of doing.
Probably because they weren't flirting with the hockey brothers.
That too. They took fate in their own hands this episode. And I just love when, I'm very spiritual, and I thought it was great that they always brought up how they rely on their faith to get through. And there's a lot of teams from past seasons that have done that and have done really successful, because it's just having faith in the unknown to get them from point A to point B. So them bringing that up, I was like, I'm actually a fan now for Caroline and Jennifer.
I'm happy because I've always been a fan. They have such great attitudes. They never really are down. They're supportive. I like them.
Yeah. And then Joey was doing the paddling for Team YouTube. He was funny.
Oh, that was...
Those shorts kill me.
I
need a pair. I already asked where he got those pants from. They're from Lululemon. Like, I need to get an outfit like
with
Joey.
the socks?
Definitely.
Right.
I don't know where the socks are from, but I need a pair too.
Nice.
American Apparel. Okay.
Probably. Good point.
Yeah.
And coming up in the rear, we had Max doing it for Max and Kate, with Katie being back to a little bit, dismissive of Max again. Because, come on, how hard is it to paddle upstream without a paddle? To do a canoe upstream without a paddle. I'm sure it was really, really tough.
Yeah, Mona and Katie were definitely the backseat drivers in this one.
Oh, yeah. And one thing I thought was interesting, too, was at least there were a couple of run-ins where teams were crossing each other.
Yeah, the Derby moms were playing Derby on water.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that they were touching Chuck and Winona's
bumping
boat,
and shoving, yeah.
Moving it out of the way. I thought that was a little nasty.
Yeah.
I think it was the editing. I think they were making it look like a bigger deal than it actually was. Because, those currents, you don't know what it's capable of. And I think it just ended up just naturally happening.
You don't think they just wanted to play roller derby?
Probably the competitive side of me would have pushed someone's boat over and been like, excuse me, you're in my way.
Oh, boy. Well, anyway, everybody pretty much finished in about the order that they came from what notes, and they all got to move on to our next section, which was the detour. And for this one, they got to choose between brains and brawn. So, and it was between riding a horse, going on a horseback safari, and searching for 10 cutouts, because I guess they couldn't use real animals in Africa. Well, you know, they had 10 cutouts, and then they got to the end of it, and they had to organize a set of tiles and pick the 10 animals they spotted.
In order.
Put them in order. And they had to do this without a pen and a paper. So that was brains. Brawn was your typical type of brawn thing. I mean, it was indigenous, I guess, to the country.
Sure.
But it was carrying lumberwood and putting it in a sleigh and using a team of donkeys to bring it half a mile with a carrot. With nothing but a carrot and your motivational skills.
And your chanting.
Yes, and your charisma.
Yes.
And maybe a little elbow grease.
Right.
A little and
Pushing.
lots of, you know, kudos to the audio team for the episode for all the extra donkey noises here.
Oh, I know, right?
So the first team that shows up was Pam and Winnie, and they went straight for brawn. But they could not budge a donkey at all.
No way.
Well, from what it looked like, it didn't seem like they really gave it enough time. I think they just got extremely impatient and frazzled in their head that they were like, we can't do this, we're going to go. It didn't seem like there was really much time that was spent there. Again, it could be the editing, but the moment they said they were going to switch the detour, I was like, again, I said this a few after shows ago. When you change the momentum of your game, you're not going to do well at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to lose time, you're going to go down in the rankings, and potentially be eliminated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they just got freaked out when they saw 2 more teams coming, and they weren't doing anything. But again, it didn't look like they were really trying. Some of those teams really were pushing and heaving and hawing at those donkeys, and really, like, they would have, if they could have, they would have picked them up themselves and carried them.
Well, the
That's
Derby
the way they
Moms
were.
and Team YouTube are definitely pushing the sleigh, which I think kind of helps, you know, the resistance on the donkey's back to, like, make them actually want to go. So they weren't
forward,
fully pulling the weight.
Yeah, and you know, even in the beginning of the episode, and I'm sure they did this to set this whole thing up. Pam and Winnie said that they were the smarter team. I guess they said their line
noticed
was,
that.
"Our strong suits are minds. We're smart." So, so I guess that set up for them running over to brains. But you know, everybody else went for brawn. But the biggest surprise, I think, was that Team Bama was the only other team, or the only team, and they decided to just go straight for brains. I'm guessing that was partly because of Winona, but I still thought that was a big shocker.
Well, also because they're hunters, so they probably just thought they'd be able to spot them out.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Right?
Yeah, because that's right, because Chuck was bragging about how he would love to get some African animals mounted on his...
And they put their little safari hats on. They just really fit them.
The safari hat with the mullet.
Right.
Yeah, with the mullet.
hair.
The hair.
I was really impressed with what they were able to do as well, because, you know, the way they're edited or perceived on the show, they don't seem like they're all that up here. Like, you know, they kind of just go on a whim. But it seemed like they really made that detour look super simple and easy. They only had to do it one time. Yeah, right?
The elephant.
She's like, I'm no country singer, but...
Now, you know, before even knowing what these two were, just based on what little clues they had, which ones would you have picked? We already know you wouldn't go water skiing. So...
I would not go water
So
skiing.
you
I
wouldn't
would
have done the fast
totally
forward.
do shaking my booty and dance with the tribe.
Oh, yeah.
But I probably would have picked brains for this detour.
You probably would have picked brains?
Yeah. I know I would have picked brains.
I probably wouldn't have. Probably would have picked brawn.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think I would have possibly ended up with brawn, too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes at least you know your own limitations. You do it. I mean, the donkeys were a big unknown.
Yeah.
If you had the right donkeys, but
Yeah.
still, just based on reading it, I think I would have gone for brawn, and maybe I would have switched too if the donkeys were causing too much trouble. I don't know. Maybe I would have been motivated enough to push them, just like some of those other teams.
Oh, I would have. I don't think I'd ever switch. I think I would just push that donkey until I moved.
Right.
But it was an interesting challenge. Let's just talk about brawn, because I think it was just really fun with the donkeys overall. We had 2 really awesome races, if I want to say, you know.
We did,
Yeah,
yeah.
2 little competitions over there. We had Team YouTube and Max and Katie thinking they were fighting for last place. And it was really
And they
neck
were
and
neck to neck.
Neck to neck. And then the country singers and the Derby Moms, too. The 2 strong women teams fighting for second place. Although they didn't know it was second place at the time.
Yeah.
But they were really competitive, too. I was a little surprised. Again, the country singers really stepping it up. They were not going to give up.
When I saw them running to the pit stop, the country singers and Derby Moms, I was actually really surprised, I guess, that they were all like, high five, boom, boom, like we got second and third, girl power. When like 2 episodes ago, I don't know which 2 teams shared the map, but they were from opposing alliances, and there was no
connection,
celebration.
yeah.
It was Max and Katie, and I think it was the Derby Moms too.
That's
I think it
probably
was
what
too, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. So well, Max and Katie, they don't really hide their emotions too well.
No.
They do not have good poker faces, especially Katie. But yeah, it's really interesting to see. But again, it's Carolyn and Jennifer. You know, they're full of faith, they're full of hope. I don't think they really have shown any hostility or any negativity toward any of the other teams at all.
Right.
I mean, they've shown extra positivity toward the Hockey Brothers. We know that already.
Yes.
But other than that, everyone else has been just fun to be around.
And even when their donkeys got stuck in the tree, they just didn't even panic. They just tried to get the donkeys out and keep going.
I was more surprised with the Derby Moms because I think they've been shown to be a little blunt with other teams when they're competing, and even that race they seemed a bit blunt too.
It's probably just the Derby Mom persona that they have. You know, being in the ring. If you've ever seen Whip It, you know, they're pretty aggressive and really competitive in those rings. I mean, you're laughing. You know what I'm talking about.
Our producer
Those
Marissa
girls are
is
tough. I mean, there's no nice side to
You
them.
don't mess with them.
No.
Yeah, you don't mess with them, I guess. So, anyway, so we have all those teams over there, and then
Another really funny was when.
Oh, yeah.
Something really funny was when John and Megan were dangling the carrot, and he was like, "This is like worth $1 million," dangling a little carrot. And then once they started going, he's like, "Come on, ride it, cowboy." Oh.
They have fun. They have
YouTubers.
They have a lot of fun doing
They
that
do.
stuff, so.
Part of me was really hoping. I mean, we already knew that Pam and Winnie were going to come in last at this point.
Yeah.
But I was really hoping that it would have come down to this neck and neck battle for last place between Team YouTube and the Newlyweds, because there seems like there's always a lot of tension between those 2 teams. Remember when they're on the airplane last? I think it was last week's episode.
Exactly.
And Joey and Megan and Max and Katie were not happy they were on the same flight, and Max and Katie don't really seem to like Team YouTube and vice versa. I would have loved it if this was that Max and Katie got eliminated because of Joey and Megan coming before them. I think that would have knocked Max's ego down a little bit.
Yeah, probably would have. But unfortunately for you, I guess, you got to live with Max and Katie for at least one more week.
I do, but as long as I still have Bama, Team Hair, and Team YouTube, and the Derby Moms, I'm all good. Those are my 3 teams. So.
Now, let's look over to Brains. Speaking of Bama, for one thing, let's go over to Brains, because they had the African safari, the horseback safari, with the 10 cutouts. And again, Winona singing her
Singing
vibe.
the animal songs.
They were pretty smart. They split it up into 5. Winona did the first one. She just kept repeating it and singing it along. And then Chuck, with the expert marksman that he is, I guess, from being back home and hunting and doing taxidermy, he was able to spot all 10. That last one was a pretty tricky one, I'd have to admit.
The bird on top of the...
Yeah, the bird on top of the hippo. That was an interesting one, because that was a cutout of 2 animals. So I don't know if I would have... I guess I would have figured it out based on the tiles if I felt confident enough in the other 9 that I remembered the other 9, or that my team remembered the other 9.
Right.
But still, that was a very, very tricky one.
Yeah.
And yet, while they were able to figure that out, one of, I think, the smartest teams in the race, which was Pam and Winnie, were struggling with this.
Big time.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I was really floored because of all the other detours and roadblocks in the past that either have incorporated some sort of memory or, you know, being very sharp with what they see. I was floored. They were not. They were not doing so hot, and I was like, "What is wrong?"
Because they weren't in the lead, they really got flustered. They got a little anxiety. They got worried, and they really were more focused on that versus just focusing on moving forward and the task.
Yeah. No, I have to agree with you on that. I think they're really. It's funny because they are really good in competition when they're fighting with other people. But even in the beginning of the show, they said they work better alone, and I think that's what they think.
Yeah.
But I felt that they've rose to the occasion when they're directly in competition with other teams.
Yes.
And that's when
that pressure of just, we're going to do it.
And that's when we find out, oh, I used to do this for a living, or I used to do that for a living.
All the little secrets come out.
The challenge is all geared toward their experience. It's like they sent their resume in ahead of time, and they just got all these challenges geared for them.
Yeah.
But I guess spotting cardboard cutouts is not part of their resume.
Or donkey taming.
Or donkey taming. So I think they were out of luck on both sides of the coin, so to speak. So unfortunately, we end up saying goodbye to Pam and Winnie. So that's I have to admit, this was really sad for me.
I know.
I didn't think they were going to grow on me, but they did.
I've been loving the progress they've made from, leg 1 till now. I was really excited because I feel like they've kind of had this incline where they're like this underestimated team, and then they were in the top 3 the last few legs. I was upset to see them leave because I feel like they had so much more race and fight in them.
Do you think they got overconfident?
I don't think it was overconfident. I think they just got frazzled.
Yeah, I think they got frazzled. And they weren't my favorite team, but I was definitely shocked that they just this was not their leg at all.
Yeah.
Especially when the goat peed on Winnie's leg. That was pretty funny.
That was great. I love that. I did like that moment too, actually.
Had they stayed at the bronze the first time and not switched, I wonder how well they would have placed. Because again, I still stand by what I say about changing up your momentum.
Well, again, they were the second team. They were the first ones who completed the roadblock to begin with, so they knew that. They had some extra wiggle room.
Yeah.
And at the very least, they should have stayed there and seen how the other I guess they did see the other teams moving forward with the donkeys, and they just weren't able to push motivate their donkeys enough, and thought they could go on. And again, they thought they were smart.
That's what surprised me, is I didn't see them as someone who would, in a way, kind of give up.
Yeah.
I thought for sure that they would just keep pushing, stay at it, do whatever they could to move those donkeys. So when they were like, oh, let's try the other one, that's where I was surprised.
Yeah. Well, and then they had to go back to the donkeys anyway because they couldn't figure out that they missed the ostrich before the bird and the hippo.
And I liked how they put the bird on top of the hippo with the tiles.
They were trying to change the rules a little bit. So, well, it wasn't even a hippo; it was a rhino. They should have just covered up. They should have covered up the horn or something.
Right?
Yeah, they should have put their finger on the horn and just eliminated it. But the other side of the coin, we have Bates and Anthony back in first place. Second week in a row, third time out of 7 legs.
Yeah.
So they are
$7,500
and
bonus.
Well, for water skiing in a crocodile-infested river, even
deserved.
Even if it wasn't really that infested at the time, it's still well deserved.
Had I known that's what would have been at stake, I totally would have done the fast forward.
Just think how many shorts you could have got with that.
So I guess I'm gonna have to just switch. I said I thought this team was a weaker team, other than the challenges, the physical challenges. I was thinking they were a weaker team, but to be in Africa, to be in Botswana, and to be able to navigate and do all that, and I think they actually you gotta think they're a favorite. You gotta think they're a favorite right now.
Definitely. And I think it also goes to show with the results of this entire leg, no matter how strong you are or no matter how quick you are, it boils down to luck a lot of times, and how you're able to stay cool, calm, and collected in times of stress, And I think that's ultimately, again, Pam and Winnie's demise. But Bates and Anthony are underestimated, with their mind, that I think that they are really proving to be a strong team in this race.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally
And maybe
agree.
their hockey has something to do with it too, because when you're the underdogs in a league, you really got to step it up, and when you do step it up, you got to stay in that position. So they do have strategy and the skills and the competition side of them, because they are hockey players.
Well, when you're building momentum like this too, you get confidence. They were not too confident being in first place at the beginning of this because they had nobody to cheat off of or compare notes with, but now they are getting a little more comfortable.
This is their second time first place.
Now I'm sure there's going to be next week. I'm sure there's going to be a spot for them to catch up, for the other teams to catch up to them. So they'll be working
equalizer.
Even. Yeah, they're always going to have that, especially after a fast forward show like this one.
Right.
They got to have an equalizer because they don't want that fast forward team getting too much of a head start. But I still think at this point that they have what it takes to probably pull out from the pack again and use some of those skills again.
Yeah.
So, but
I like my hockey boys.
You like them? You're a country girl, though. I could tell. You're a country
I'm from
girl
Canada. You gotta love hockey.
That's a country. Yeah, you gotta love hockey.
Definitely.
Different kind of country. So anyway, so let's move on. Let's move on to some news and gossip, I believe, right?
Oh, sure. Why not?
AfterBuzz TV News.
I believe, Jessica, I think this is yours.
It
right?
is for sure determined that there will be a season 23.
And that is not an April Fool's joke.
That is true.
Although Peter Dinklage is going to be in it, and Andrew
us.
Lincoln and us, and I don't know.
Andrew Lincoln?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I know, but can you imagine if they did like a Team Walking Dead? I would die.
They should do something like that, like a Battle of the Network Stars, but from the old days.
It would be cool
but
to
it's an
see
amazing
Kevin
race.
and Maria on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying, if they did a celebrity race,
That
I
would be
would
great.
root for them.
I
for
was just
sure.
basing it on the April Fool's jokes. I don't know if you read the
Actually,
April
they
Fool's
would do
jokes.
so good.
Yeah.
Maria.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, there was a couple of April Fool's jokes regarding Andrew Lincoln and Peter Dinklage today too. So that was
Oh,
basing it on
funny.
that. They left their
Okay.
shows.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, that's over everybody's
Didn't catch
head.
that one.
No, it's okay. I'll tell you after the show. Okay. No problem.
But I'm pretty
Okay.
stoked that season 23 is actually going to happen. And usually that season probably films May, June. That's usually the time frame of when it
Summertime?
films.
Cool.
So if you're in LA, make sure you're on the lookout for
Check it
teams running around
out.
because they seem to be leaving from LA every season.
Well, I feel like the ratings have always been pretty good for them, and
Definitely.
they're always a runner for the Emmys. So
Yes.
it's a no-brainer at this point. But I'm glad they made it official.
Yeah.
It's official.
I'm glad it's official. We can count on at least one more season, or probably two more seasons, really, because I think even though they call it a season, it's still 2 races. Fall and spring. Yeah, I believe that's what they count it as. So great, we're gonna get to see 2 more amazing races at least.
Yay.
Yay.
For that. Okay, and that's our news and gossip for this week.
Wonderful.
Now let's move on to predictions.
Predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay, I have to admit I did not see next week's clips because I was in a hurry. So and I
You know
forgot.
what? I actually didn't either because I watched it moments before we went live today, and that was the last 30 seconds of the CBS.com episode that I did not see.
Oh, well, they
Well.
are off to Switzerland.
Ooh,
Oh,
you're
nice.
up.
Yes, and they're gonna do an infamous cheese task. So
Wait, I think I might have heard about this. Did they show the cheese task?
I don't know.
I think I may have read somewhere online. This could also be news and gossip.
Oh.
I think I also read somewhere online that they repeat one of Amazing Race's
Oh.
favorite challenges from a previous season.
You know what?
And I think it's with the cheese.
I did see the clip. No,
Oh.
I did see the clips now because I did see the episode. It involved the Travelocity gnome, and I believe it looks like they're carrying the gnome all over the place in Switzerland, and they were falling down a hill. I did
With the
see
cheese?
that.
yeah.
With the
No,
cheese?
no, it wasn't with the cheese. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was the cheese because it was a snow-capped mountain.
Oh.
It was a
Right, because
snow-capped mountain.
Switzerland.
Yes, although Switzerland's known for their cheese too. So, but I didn't see any cheese in that.
Well, I know there's cheese involved.
Because my mind goes back to that one season.
Maybe someone cut the cheese. I don't know.
Maybe
Probably.
somebody did. Okay, well, this is great for predictions. Okay, well, I'm going to say right now with Pam and Winnie gone, let's see who's on the fence. I'm going to say unless Max and Katie get their act together, I think they might be the next ones to go. That's what I'm going to say. I know it's good news for you. That's what
I want them to stay. I like them. Katie has great style. I think Beth and Mona.
really in Switzerland with the snow. I don't know. They seem tough.
You think they're going to go home next week?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think Mona and Beth at all. I think based on I looked up all the placings online today, just kind of get an average of where everyone was placing. I don't know. I have a weird hunch. Again, I said it last week, but I feel like Chuck and Winona
Oh,
might
the hair.
leave next week.
Oh,
At least I
well.
hope not. I would rather see Max and Katie, but I actually think the Derby Moms could be in the top.
Really?
Yeah, I think the way they're edited and their story and the way they're kind of building up momentum every week, I think they'll do pretty well.
They're-
Okay, maybe I'm just playing favorites.
They are the strongest of the female teams.
Yeah.
Of the all female. And now that Pam and Winnie are gone, they're definitely the strongest of the female teams.
Agreed, and I would like to see them in the top 3.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that next week. But for now, that's it for us over here. Thanks a lot for tuning in. You can catch me at Nandovel. That's Nandovel on Twitter. And I also host a couple other After Buzzes over here, like The Following and Bates Motel.
And I'm James Wallington. You can find me on Twitter at James Wallington and on Instagram at Mr. Mr. James Wally.
And find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sika Carroll, SICACARROLL.
Great. And on behalf of all of us, thanks for tuning in. And hey, if you got us on iTunes, please subscribe, rate us, comment. We love to see that kind of stuff. We love the comments. James is really good at getting back to people on YouTube.
Again, I love talking about it. I'll do it
Yes.
all day, all night.
Absolutely. But till next week, see you. Thanks again.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.